All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are diving deep into a story that's, well, it's straight out of a movie, really. Imagine this. You are an astronaut, you've been up on the ISS for months, and you're finally heading back to Earth.
Sounds pretty routine, right? Well, not exactly.
Not exactly, no. Because what if, just as you're about to return, you find out your spacecraft has technical issues? And not just any issues, propulsion problems. You can't come home in the ship you were supposed to.
Talk about a major plot twist. And that's precisely what happened to astronaut Sunita Williams.
Sunita Williams, yeah, an astronaut with NASA, and she had to switch spacecraft mid-flight.
Mid-flight, can you imagine?
No, not really. I mean, it's incredible. And that's exactly what we are going to be looking at today, this incredible story. And we've got this unique source, a letter.
Yeah, a letter from the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to Sunita Williams herself.
Written just as she was about to start this, well, very unexpected journey home. So what we have here is the personal touching the really huge events of space travel in this, well, kind of new era we're in.
Exactly. We are talking about Boeing, SpaceX, NASA, international collaboration, and, just a ton of on-the-fly problem solving.
It's amazing. But first, let's set the scene a little bit, right?
Yeah.
We all probably know about the ISS, the International Space Station, that giant space lab orbiting Earth.
Yeah, but think about this for a second. It's like a city in orbit, constantly needing supplies, repairs. I mean, it's wild. It's a logistical marvel.
It really is. And Sunita Williams, she was part of a test flight for Boeing's Starliner. It was supposed to be, a short trip to the ISS.
That's right. Just a quick visit.
But then those propulsion issues popped up. And boom, a short stay turns into an unplanned 9-month mission.
9 months. Now, try and put yourself in her shoes. You are trained for one specific spacecraft, and suddenly you are on a completely different one.
Wow. I mean, how do you even begin to adjust to that?
I mean, the controls are different, the systems are different, everything's different. Dragon, which is the SpaceX craft she ended up on, it's got touchscreen controls, totally different from the Starliner she trained on. It speaks volumes about her skill and adaptability, though, that she managed it.
It's incredible. And, PM Modi, in his letter, he really underlines the national pride India feels for Sunita Williams, especially with all these unexpected challenges she faced and overcame. He talks about her family eagerly awaiting her return, even mentions a meeting he had with Williams and her late father back in 2016.
It's really interesting how he weaves in these personal details. He mentions her mother's anticipation, even brings up her father's connection to Gujarat, which is, as you probably know, Modi's home state.
Oh, right.
It creates this sense of shared connection, like he's bringing it home, making it personal, and elevating her achievements to, well, kind of a national level.
Yeah, it's like he's saying, look what of our own is accomplished. But there's more to it than just individual achievement here.
Right. Oh, absolutely. This ties into a much bigger picture. India's growing role in space exploration. It's fascinating, really. You see this trend, nations are realizing their citizens abroad, they are not just gone, they're a valuable network. And Williams, her story, it shows how this can boost scientific progress and a nation's image all at once.
Yeah, makes sense. So PM Modi is celebrating Sunita Williams, but he's also subtly showcasing India's own ambitions in space, right?
Right. And he doesn't just stop there. He goes on to invite her to visit India upon her return, promises a big welcome for one of the nation's most illustrious daughters.
Pretty powerful stuff. But I got to ask, what was it like, really, for her up there, those 9 months on the ISS? That's longer than some people spend on Earth their whole lives. Did she talk about that, about what it's actually like to live in microgravity for so long? And how did they even manage the logistics of this whole spacecraft switch? Did they just, beam her over Star Trek style?
Huh? I wish it were that easy. It was a bit more complicated than that. And as for the experience of prolonged spaceflight, well, that's a whole other deep dive in itself. It's not all, floating around looking at the Earth. We are talking about real psychological and physical challenges most of us can't even fathom.
Okay, now you've really got me hooked. We've got this amazing story of resilience. We are peeking into the world of 21st century space travel, and there are even hints of international, power plays all in one. This is going to be a fascinating deep dive. All right, so 9 months on the ISS. It's tough to even imagine, right? It's got to be like a constant camping trip, except your tent is flying around the Earth at 17,000 miles an hour.
Yeah, and it's not just the speed, it's the microgravity, right?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Your body goes through some crazy changes. Bone density loss, muscle atrophy, even your vision can be affected. Oh, yeah. It's wild. It shows just how resilient the human body is, but it's definitely a big challenge.
I bet. Even being stuck at home for a few days can be tough. I can't imagine being up there for months on end. Did Sunita Williams ever talk about the psychological effects of being isolated for so long?
Absolutely. I mean, astronauts face a lot of challenges, sleep disturbances, mood changes, even this sense of detachment from Earth.
It makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, and they have to figure out ways to cope,
Yeah.
right? Maintaining a strict routine, staying in touch with loved ones back home, finding creative outlets, things like that.
I bet that view of Earth from the ISS
Yeah.
helps a bit too, right?
Oh, for sure. Imagine seeing our entire planet, no borders, just this beautiful blue marble floating in the vastness of space.
That's got to be something else.
Astronauts talk about this thing called the overview effect. It's basically this profound shift in perspective when you see Earth from that unique vantage point. You realize how connected we all are, how fragile our planet really is.
Wow. Like a cosmic wake-up call.
Exactly.
But, okay, besides the psychological and physical stuff, what about the actual work? I mean, what was she doing up there for 9 months?
Well, it's not all just, spacewalks and zero-gravity flips. A
Yeah.
lot of their time is dedicated to scientific research. The ISS is basically a giant orbiting lab. They are doing experiments in biology, physics, materials science, even testing how the human body adapts to space, all kinds of things.
So they are like, well, they're pioneers, pushing the boundaries of scientific knowledge.
That's like a great way to put it.
But, those spacewalks, those do look pretty cool. What's it like, actually going outside the ISS?
It's got to be one of the most dangerous things astronauts do. I mean, you are tethered to the station, but you are essentially floating in the void of space, right? Nothing but stars around you.
I can't even imagine.
It takes incredible skill, focus, and courage to do that.
It's mind-blowing. But, all this makes me wonder, isn't it a little risky relying so much on private companies like SpaceX and Boeing for these missions?
How do you mean?
Well, what if their priorities clash with, scientific goals?
That's a good point. It's a new era of space exploration, for sure.
Yeah.
Private companies are playing a bigger role than ever before.
Right.
And it has its pluses, right? Increased innovation, reduced costs, things like that. But yeah, it also raises questions about control, oversight, and the potential for commercial interest to overshadow scientific goals. It's something to think about.
For sure. Ideally, space exploration should benefit everyone, not just the people who can afford a ticket on a commercial space flight.
Absolutely. It's a conversation we need to be having moving forward. Who gets access to space? Who benefits from its resources? How do we ensure space exploration stays a force for good, driven by, scientific discovery and global cooperation? All important things to consider.
Yeah, big questions. But for now, let's circle back to Sunita Williams. We talked about her incredible journey, the challenges of life in space, but what about her return to Earth?
Right. Well, after that whole spacecraft switcheroo, she finally splashed down safely in the Atlantic Ocean. PM Modi, just like he said he would, was among the first to congratulate her. He really emphasized that India can't wait to welcome her back.
It's a pretty striking image. This astronaut, she journeys to the stars and back, and she's welcomed home like a national hero.
Yeah, and it speaks to something deeper, I think, the power of space exploration.
How so?
Well, it taps into this, I don't know, this primal human urge to explore, to push boundaries, to see what's out there. And when these explorers return, they don't just bring back data and scientific findings, they bring back inspiration. They bring back a new way of seeing things.
Yeah, it reminds us that we are all part of something bigger than ourselves, connected to this vast universe.
Absolutely. And that's a powerful message, especially now when the world can feel so divided. Space exploration has this unique ability to bring people together, to remind us of our shared humanity and our responsibility to take care of this planet we call home.
It's incredible. One story, Sunita Williams' story, it touches on so many things: resilience, scientific discovery, global cooperation, even like the ethics of space travel, our place in the cosmos. It's amazing.
It really is. And it's a reminder that space exploration isn't just about, rockets and robots. It's about human stories, human dreams, the potential of what we as humans can do.
So true. But I got to admit, the technical side of this whole thing, that's fascinating too. Switching spacecraft mid-flight, I mean, that's like changing horses midstream, except the stream is space, and it's moving at thousands of miles per hour. I'm dying to know how they actually pulled that off. All right, so Spill the beans. How did they actually do it? This whole spacecraft swap thing, it sounds like something out of I don't know, a space opera or something.
It's definitely not as simple as, calling a space taxi. It was
Yeah,
this massive coordinated effort between NASA, Boeing, SpaceX, everyone.
I bet.
They had to adjust flight paths, make sure the Dragon, the SpaceX craft, could actually dock with the ISS, the whole thing. It's crazy complicated.
It's like a giant puzzle, except the pieces are, hurtling through space at thousands of miles an hour,
Mhm.
and people's lives are on the line.
Yeah, the stakes don't get much higher than that. And it really makes you think about the future of space travel. As we push further out there, rely more on these private companies like SpaceX, and the missions get more complex, this kind of thinking on your feet, problem solving, it's going to be even more important.
Absolutely. And it also makes you appreciate all the people working behind the scenes, right? We tend to focus on the astronauts, but it really takes a whole army of people to pull this off.
Oh, 100%. And it's not just about being a tech whiz either. It's about communication, collaboration, keeping your cool under pressure. It's really incredible the level of dedication and ingenuity in the field of space exploration.
It really is. But we've also been talking about the tougher side of space travel, the isolation, the risks, the physical toll it takes. What kind of person can handle all that?
It takes someone special, that's for sure. You need mental toughness, you need physical stamina, a hunger for knowledge, a willingness to push the limits. Astronauts are true explorers. They are driven by curiosity, a desire to understand the universe.
Like Sunita Williams.
Exactly.
But her story also brings up some interesting questions about, well, where space travel goes from here. Will it always be just for, a select few, these highly trained astronauts? Or will it become more accessible to, well, to everyday people?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? As technology keeps advancing and the cost comes down, we might see more chances for regular people to experience space travel firsthand. But space is still a dangerous place. It demands a lot of training and understanding of the risks involved.
It's not just about, taking a cool trip. It's about respecting the environment, getting the science, contributing to our collective knowledge.
Exactly. And that brings us back to Sunita Williams and what her story really means. It's not just about one person's achievements, it's about inspiring others, showing young people that they can have careers in science, in engineering, in all these STEM fields. It's about sparking that sense of wonder about the universe.
It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible for all of us.
And remembering that we are all part of this grand cosmic journey connected in ways we are just beginning to grasp.
So what did we learn today? We started with this dramatic spacecraft switch, and we ended up talking about, well, everything. The challenges of living in space, the people who make it all happen, the ethics of space travel, how it shapes the way we see ourselves in the universe.
It all comes back to that fundamental human need to explore, to learn, to go beyond what we already know.
So keep looking up, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and never lose that sense of awe for the wonders of the cosmos.
Because who knows what's waiting out there, just beyond our reach, just beyond our imagination.